Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good night. This is Michael Wynn, Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RV Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in today on the Digital Marketing Podcast and video, where we talk about digital marketing strategies and tactics to help grow your business. Today, I want to talk about a theme that's been reoccurring, especially this week, as I've talked to potential business owners, individuals, representatives, whether you're in the automotive industry, real estate, financial, banking. If you are an individual and you are responsible for growing your own personal brand as it relates to how you can actually grow your business, I think the O.C.R. method is something that everyone wants to know, as how can I grow my personal brand on a zero budget? And it really is possible, but we need to kind of think differently maybe than we have when it comes to especially digital and social media. I think that one of the things that is so common is that people think that social is a selling platform, and it's not, right? I mean, social was always about a digital space that was relational to people who had real world relationships, and it was a way for them to connect. It was a way for them to stay, together despite geographical boundaries, whether that was 2 blocks down the road, 2 miles down the road, or 2 countries abroad. But most importantly, social and digital is not a selling platform. It is relational. And so I think if we start with that as a context, I think because again, whether you're in, the tech industry or, if you're in sales or business development and you're trying to think about at the end of the day, how do I get more eyeballs? Because the truth of the matter is eyeballs equal dollar bills. But the problem is that most of us, when we, jump on social or we, jump on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, it's like our sales hat or our megaphone, we automatically default and gravitate to sort of that mindset. And that's not the thing. Think about it this way. Think about if you were at a dinner party and you saw, maybe there's a guy and a girl and a couple other people, and they're kind of congregated together and they're having a conversation, and you walk up to them, and if you interrupt their conversation to say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a salesman with Acme Company," they're going to think you're a total douchebag. I mean, you're going to come across as completely insensitive, and they're going to pretty much, turn their back and walk away from you. So that's not what we want to do. And that's what happens all the time on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, when people who are in sales or in business development try to use these platforms as if they were, business networking opportunities where they have to always be about their products and services. So let's shift away from that and let's really dive into the O.C.R. method that can be hugely successful for you to grow your own personal brand on a zero budget. So the O.C.R. method really is a very basic formula that you can deploy for any level of business, whether you sell locally or regionally or nationally. It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's really about having an understanding of who your customer is and what's important to them, being able to deploy empathy when you are entering into a conversation, and then lastly, really to make sure that your engagement is authentic. And so sort of those are the 3 components behind the O.C.R. method. So number 1 is to observe, right? The first thing that you want to do, again, taking the dinner party as sort of a context. Imagine if, there are many conversations that are out there, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and Snapchat and all the different platforms that are out there, Reddit, just all kinds of conversations are taking place. And so what you're looking for is, how can you be involved in those conversations? Here's the mistake I think that a lot of people, especially salespeople and business development people, they stay too focused in on, just their area alone, especially, if you live in a small town. Let's say you live in a small town with less than, I don't know, 180 or 150,000 people. And let's say that your business is very local. Well, the conversation and the things that are most important to the people who live in that local community, I mean, they really are the basics. Like, where am I going to shop to go get my groceries? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? Where am I going to do my banking? Like, the everyday things of life are the conversations that we're having on social, right? So if you're in business development and you're trying to think about, okay, I want to make sure that I'm getting in conversations where, people are talking about financing, and then I want to be able to jump in there and add my 2 cents, like, hey, don't forget about us for all of your banking and mortgage needs. You're too late, because the guys and gals who are spending money to get in front of them, they've already beat you to that. If you really want to, find eyeballs that equal dollar bills, you're going to have to go to a much larger party of people who are a couple of steps before they're even thinking about making a decision of, investing in, new software, or investing in a new home, or, making a large banking decision, or, making a decision about their health care, or whatever that is. And so, you've got to be a part of that party before they already say the buzzword. So then you're like, Michael, I don't get it. Like, you're talking about, expanding out. How am I going to be able to sell, widgets and, whack-a-mole-doodles? You've got to shift away from that. You've got to shift into being involved. It's a numbers game. And here's the real magic. The O.C.R. method is really the secret sauce of one-to-one engagement at scale. That's really the key. When you talk about how can you really grow your personal brand, it's going to be done one-to-one at scale. And so how do you do one-to-one at scale? So number one is to observe the scale, observe the entire conversation. You have to be involved in every single, you got to go to every single dinner party. And those dinner parties, a lot of times on social platforms, hover around hashtag or topic areas. So, maybe in your news feed, whether it's on Facebook or what have you, you may have a media company in your local area that puts news and articles that are up that are relevant to what's happening in the city, and people are talking about it. Imagine if you kind of kept an awareness of that. Now, I understand there's going to be a lot of people that comment on there, and there are a lot of trolls that just get on there and get angry. And one of the reasons why many people have left Facebook with 2016 elections, because of all of the craziness that happened during that time. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. Those conversations are still going to take place. And so number one is to observe. And so you need to understand, maybe you need to, and I don't want to break it down in this episode, because this would be like an hour and a half long episode, but just Google search, how do I do a search for hashtags on Facebook? How do I do a topic search on Twitter? How do I do a geo search on LinkedIn? All of that kind of stuff is available on the internet. There's hundreds of thousands of articles, so I don't have to tell you about that. You can figure that out. But first of all, so once you identify what those, where those dinner parties are, where those conversations are taking place, and you start to observe them, then look at and think about the content that was posted. Think about and have a context of the conversations and comments that are happening, right? And then look for an opportunity to relate to them, or to relate to the content. This is the R in the O.C.R, and it's really about deploying empathy. It's really making sure that you are putting yourself in the shoes of the person that either shared that original piece of content or who made that original comment. Because this is not a situation where you're trying to, win or lose or prove a point. Not the game. The game here is really that, again, like a dinner party. When you go to a dinner party, it's about relationships. It's about having a good time. And it's about engaging with people who are either smart, funny, or who are relatable. Like, that makes good party guests, and you like to hang out and talk with people who are smart, funny, and relatable. And so in social, I think it's that same sort of deploying that same, methodology. So, being able to relate and deploy that empathy is really the important second step of the OCR method. First of all is to observe, second is to relate, and then third is to make your comment. Making a comment that is insightful and authentic is one of the most powerful ways for you to gain eyeballs that ultimately are going to end up in dollar bills, right? Because in this day and age, someone could literally be everywhere because of the massive expanse of the internet, right? I mean, you could comment and be involved in all of the biggest parties on the internet because it is open, right? So, I mean, if it's a public post on Facebook and lots of people are looking at it and watching it, and you're adding your comment. Now, again, you're not doing this to, prove your point, or, you're doing it to what? You want to come across as the person in the party that people want to hang out with, which means you're either smart, you're funny, or you're relatable. Now, on the funny side of things, you got to be really good with a sense of humor, because that can be taken the wrong way. So, I think, just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your comments. But, at the end of the day, especially if you're going to comment on political content, religious-based content, of things of that nature, again, there, I think if you can deploy empathy and say that you understand without having to feel like you need to prove your point, you are going to be much, much more successful. I mean, I remember back in the days before the internet, and people would go door to door, and this is sort of the digital door to door. The only twist is we're not trying to leave behind a business card. Guys, the business card is the fact that your profile is making the comment. You don't have to say, I'm a realtor, I'm a salesman, I'm a car dealer, I'm, a financial advisor. You don't have to say any of that. All of that is connected in your icon. And so when I get a notification that so-and-so made a comment on the post that I just looked at, and I'm like, who is that? And I go back and I click on it, look at your profile, and I look at your page, and then, oh my gosh, you're a realtor, right? So I've already done that. We're curious by nature. So understanding that really can reframe your sort of idea that the biggest sort of nugget or the biggest leverage play in, growing your personal brand on a zero budget is really about commenting on social media posts across all the platforms. Someone asked me recently, well, what platform is the best one? Well, really, there's not really one best one, because, there are people whose Facebook, personal accounts are very robust. They do a lot of commenting, there are a lot of activity. Others have, almost shut down their Facebook account, are heavily on Instagram, or, are 100% on Twitter, or are beginning to, really get involved in their LinkedIn profile. So it's not a one-size-fits-all platform. I think what's more important is that you understand that the people who you want to do business with and who you would like to be able to have their eyeballs before they start to enter the decision process around the product or service area that you're involved with, is to understand that you've got to go much larger. You've got to expand that sphere of influence, because so many times, individuals who are personal brand advocates or trying to build their personal brand, they're fishing for people who have already mentioned that they're in the market for whatever. And that's fine. I'm not saying you're not going to, engage in conversation in that, but more than likely, the big dogs that are throwing in thousands of dollars in paid digital content are reaching them before. And if they're doing it right, they're going to connect with them on an empathetic emotional, and authentic relationship basis through their paid content. But if you're trying to do this on a zero budget, then you've got to do almost like guerrilla marketing, but with a really authentic method. And so timing is everything. I mean, just think about it. We're humans, right? And we have normal cycles in our day: morning, afternoon, night, right? And so what do? We get up in the morning. Sometimes we check Facebook, we check Twitter, Instagram, check our email, whatever, right? So think about that timing. So maybe 7 a.m. is a good time to get in there and hammer out 20 minutes of comments. What about 10:30? We know that 10:30 is a break time. A lot of people take a coffee break at 10:30. That's a great LinkedIn time to go through and do a 15-minute boom, boom, boom comment on several posts. Again, the comments, what you say matters, and you do not go sales pitch. You do not want to come across as the salesman who's trying to sell something. You want to come across as the funny, smart, intelligent, relatable person who actually gives 2 cents about what it is that that person shared their content about. So you may need to read that content, think about it, draw a relationship, just like at a dinner party, as you're listening to the conversation and you're thinking about, oh, I had a situation where that happened to me and this is how I felt. And then you make the comment, yeah, that happened to me one time and this is how I felt, right? It's about engaging in an existing, ongoing, already conversation, not interrupting an existing, ongoing conversation with your commercial. That is not social. That is not how you're going to build your personal brand. You're going to build your personal brand through the O.C.R method, and the O.C.R method is simple: observe, relate, and comment. It's very simple. So again, I think at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we understand that social is not a selling platform. It's a relational platform. And when you are funny, smart, and relatable, you have the opportunity to be everywhere at all times. You really, really can. I think a lot of people think about, well, Michael, I don't have an hour. Well, yeah, we actually do. We spend so much time wasting time. I mean, think about it. Like, what are you binge watching shows right now? I'm sure your Netflix or your Hulu channel has, literally hours of content that you could watch. So, again, at night, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., spend 20 minutes and comment and again, execute the O.C.R method. You're not selling, you're just getting out there. I mean, it's no different than the door-to-door days, right? And I'm not saying that maybe part of your personal brand isn't to go door-to-door and talk to businesses and find out what are you looking for to help grow your business, or engaging and asking people what's important to them is probably the single best idea or approach to starting a relationship to someone, so that when it comes time and they're going to think about making a decision on a product or service area that you represent, they're going to remember you, because they're going to remember that you took interest in them first to learn about them. And then when it comes time for them to make a decision about whatever their networking capabilities, their financing capabilities, their options for buying a house, all of those things. So those are just some thoughts I wanted to share with you, because it seems like the last 2 weeks, this personal brand, how can I do it on a zero budget, has come up over and over. I've had this conversation. I'm like, you know what? I want to get this on the record, because I think a lot of people could benefit from learning how to grow your personal brand on a zero budget. I hope you found this content helpful. Again, my name is Michael Nguyen. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.